Welcome everyone. This is the Masterclass. My name is Patricknazareth. I'm here to help resolve your doubts, should you have any. Today, we shall study the poem Death of a Naturalist, written by Seamus Heaney. Seamus was born on April the 13th, 1939, near Castle Dawson at Northern Ireland. He died on August the 20th, 2013, at Dublin in Ireland. He writes on Irish rural life, the events in Irish history, and he also writes poems based on Irish myth. His writings are well received, and in recognition of his efforts, he received the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1995. All year, the flax dam festered in the heart of the townland. Green and heavy-headed, flax had rotted there, weighted down by huge sods. Daily it sweltered in the punishing sun. Bubbles gargled delicately, wove a strong gauze of sound around the smell. There were dragonflies, spotted butterflies, but best of all was the warm, thick slobber of frog spawn that grew like clotted water. What is a flax dam? A body of water is dammed up, and into it flax, which is a type of crop, is thrown into it. Flax is used to make ropes. So when this flax is thrown into the pond caused by the dam, it begins to rot and it becomes stringy. This process is called retting. So the flax is pulled up by its roots. There is earth attached to the roots, and the entire thing is thrown into the water, where it is left day in, day out in the hot sun. Decay happens. It begins to rot. Bubbles form in the water. Blue bottles, which are a type of fly, buzz all around it, creating a hum of sound. Dragonflies can be seen there, butterflies can be seen there. But most important from the point of view of the author was frog spawn, or rather the eggs of the frogs that is laid in the water before they hatch. In the shade of the banks, here, every spring I would fill jam-pot-fulls of the jellied specks to range on windowsills at home, on shelves at school, and wait and watch until the fattening dots burst into nimble swimming tadpoles. Miss Walls would tell us how the daddy frog was called a bullfrog, and how he croaked, and how the mammy frog laid hundreds of little eggs, and this was frog spawn. You could tell the weather by frogs too, for they were yellow in the sun and brown in rain. Frog spawn was laid in the shade of the banks. This poet, every spring, used to gather up this frog spawn in bottles. He used to place these bottles on the window shelves of his house, on the shelves in the school, waiting for the eggs to hatch, for the eggs to become tadpoles. One of his teachers, a Miss Walls, had explained to him how a male frog is called a bullfrog, and how the mother frog would lay hundreds of eggs, and these hundreds of eggs clumped together were called frog spawn. The poet understands that you could tell the weather also by the color of the frogs, because during the summer they were yellow, and when the rains came, they turned brown. Then one hot day, when fields were rank, with cow dung in the grass, the angry frogs invaded the flax dam. I ducked through hedges to a coarse croaking that I had not heard before. The air was thick with the bass chorus. Right down the dam, gross-bellied frogs were cocked on sods. Their loose necks pulsed like sails. Some hopped. The slap and plop were obscene threats. Some sat, poised like mud grenades, their blunt heads farting. I sickened, turned, and ran. The great slime kings were gathered there for vengeance, and I knew that if I dipped my hand, the spawn would clutch it. There is a change in the poem here. The poet is now talking about how the flax dam, the pond, which was of such importance to his childhood, has changed. From being a place he would love to go, it has now become a dangerous place for him. Why is that? Because the poet has become an adult. He's remembering a time when the day was very hot. It was so hot, the cow dung that was piled up there was stinking. In the grass, the frogs near the flax dam were croaking. and it was so loud he had never heard that sound before. Frogs croak in a bass voice, in a low voice, so when they were croaking, their voices sounded harsh, almost as if they were threatening him. When they jumped off the banks of the pond, caused by the flagstone, the sound that they made when they hit the water almost felt like somebody was threatening to beat him. When he looked at the frogs, he thought how repulsive they were. Loose skin on the folds of the neck moved in and out, almost like the sails on a boat blow in and out with the wind. Some hopped from place to place. Most of them were buried in the mud. Every one of them were croaking. The poet tries to make a joke here. The frogs were croaking like people were farting. But his objective is not to try and make it humorous, but to try and tell us how repulsed he felt by all this, how dangerous he felt that place was. He turned, he ran. To him and his thinking, that frog spawn, which he had taken from the pond and allowed to grow into tadpoles, were now frogs, and these frogs would punish him for what he had done to their brothers and sisters. What is the theme of the poem then? The poem is divided roughly into two stanzas. One, where we hear about what the poet felt as a child, and second, what he feels as an adult. So we see that his thoughts, his ideas, his perceptions change with time. From a place of childish wonder where he used to go and play and be happy, it has now become a place where he feels upset to go to, where he thinks it is dangerous to go. For him, once upon a time when he was a child, nature was a nurturing force. Now that he has grown up, it is almost as if nature is against him, nature is his enemy. This poem can also be called a loss of innocence. The innocence that the poet has lost, growing from a child to a man. Once, where everything was cheerful and joyous, it has now become dark and gloomy. That's the poem then for you. I hope I have been of help. If I have, please do remember to like, subscribe and share. There might be others who would need our help. Thank you so much for watching.